All right, I want to talk a little bit about background investigations. You know, we can go online, we can do our online searches and whatnot. And almost all background checks are the same. But, like, what are some examples where you're going to use a background check? Any idea?
Employment.
Yeah, pre-employment screening. Some companies offer fingerprinting services. Some companies offer just basic background checks. So the basic background check, let's say, on an employment screening, depending on the type of job, you know, you might be in a job that handles a lot of money. So they want to find out, do you have any financial problems? And in a job background check, the person that you're checking will normally sign a release form saying, I'm applying for this job, I understand you're going to do a background check on me. That enables the investigator to get a credit report because he has a signed release. So with that credit report, you can kind of check out his financial history, make sure that he's not in financial trouble. Because if the guy has a lot of debt, there's a lot of collection agencies after him, and you're going to put him in the responsibility of handling a lot of cash for your business, and you don't know him that well, I mean, he could be here today and gone tomorrow. So employment background checks really depend on the type of job. If you're going to be a truck driver, they're going to be interested in your driving record.
Brinks. I worked at Brinks Security.
Worked at Brinks. Were they interested in your driving record?
Driving records, everything. I was a carrier.
And your criminal history? Some companies might even want to know, have you had any previous claims, like on-the-job injuries, and what were they? Some companies might want to know, have you been involved in any civil litigation? Have you sued anybody? So for each types of these background checks, we might do the same thing over and over again, but for a different reason. My example, you're a truck driver. So I would say to my client, I would say, I understand you own a trucking company, and I can do affordable background checks for you, which will consist of checking his criminal history in the county in which he lives. That way I can go online and do that. In most cases, that's going to be free to me, an online criminal history search. I can check his driving record. That's going to require me to have a service, but it's only going to cost me about $3 or $6. I can also check to see if he's any previous work-related claims, workers' compensation claims. That's a work comp database. Remember the one we did online, the workers' compensation claim inquiry? It's free service. So you have these criminal check online free, work comp check online free, civil check online free. The only thing you really pay for is the driving record, which is either $3 or $6. So you can afford to do that mainly for your time, however long it takes you. And if you're working from your house and you're by yourself, so you charge $15 for every one. Who cares? You know, maybe you'll get 10 in a week. That's not bad. 10 is $150 extra a week that you didn't have before. Now let's say the person wants to spend a little bit more money. Maybe the jobs aren't just, you know, maybe they're not just warehouse jobs. Maybe the guy does operate a concession stand where the people are handling money and he wants something just a little bit more. Like he doesn't want just a county check. He wants you to do a statewide criminal history check. Well, you know we can do those online. How much does it cost?
$24.
$24, right. So now you got a $24 cost. You have a driving record cost of $6. But you know you can do the county circuit free online. The county court is going to tell you a lot of things. Has he been divorced? Has he sued anybody? It's going to tell you a lot of stuff. Has he had any disputes that had to be handled by the court? You know, you might find one in there where you might find a guy that he sued his neighbor because the dog kept crapping on his lawn. Then he sued his landlord because he says the grass grew too high on the steps and he slipped and fell. Then he was involved in an automobile accident and he sued the other driver. Well, I don't know if I want that guy working for me. He might be a little just, high maintenance or too risky. So these are the things that you can sell. Create a little flyer, send it to your client, or go out door to door, go to businesses, and try to sell them something. But sell them one thing. Don't try to sell a bundle of stuff. You've heard of that, I'm a jack of all trades, a master of none, or whatever. Anytime you hear that a company tries to spread itself too thin, it ends up having problems. Well, you need to learn how to be really good at one thing. Private investigations is all about specialties, all about finding your niche. When people come to me, now that I'm not working, the people that come to me now that I'm interested in are the people that already have kind of their niche market. They know what they want to do. They don't come to me and say, "Hey, John, I need a job. What can you do for me?" I can't do anything for you. I have a couple of clients, but they're mine. So what I'm saying is that people that I have found through this course, the ones that have been most successful, are the ones that are figuring out their niche or are excited about going after a niche market. And you gotta have to try to keep it very refined, so that you can offer a flat rate pricing, which everybody wants. Wouldn't you like it if every time you went to go get your car fixed, no matter what it was, the guy told you it was $100? He just had flat rate pricing, which will never happen. But in the investigative business, flat rate pricing is the biggest companies have flat rate pricing. But if you pick up the phone and call some of these guys in the telephone book, they'll tell you, "Oh, I charge $85 an hour or $75 an hour." And you say, "Well, how much will it cost to do the case?" And he'll say, "Well, I don't know how much time it will take. You're going to have to give me a $1,000 retainer." He almost scares you away. Now, he's probably going to be a good enough salesman to be able to get that money out of some people, or he wouldn't be in business. But the really, really big companies, when you call them and you ask them how much a job is, they give you a price. Some cases will take more time, some will take less. They know that in the long run, that price was a good number. Now, yeah, that pricing is kind of figured out. They know how much time an investigation takes if it's done properly. They've done so many of them that they have it down to a science. It's like when you go to get a brake job now, they have a flat rate for a brake job. Some will be longer, some will be shorter, but they know the approximate cost of a brake job as opposed to any other really type of major automotive repair. So in the background, in background investigations, we talked about pre-employment screening. How about domestic cases?
Awesome.
What?
They ask for screening.
Yeah, maybe you want to find out, you're a wealthy guy, and you're finding women, how do you know whether that woman's just not after you for your money, or wanting to be with you for your money? Maybe you want to find out what her exes had to say about her. Maybe you want to check her. If you met her and you don't know anything about her, maybe check her background. Same thing. Courthouse. You can look for ex-husbands that way. We can make calls. You can have a service to where, you'll contact up to 1 or 2 people and interview them over the telephone. Now you want to be careful with that because it might be hard to find them. Once you find their name, you might have to run their name through a database and get an address, send them a letter if there's no telephone number, and say, "Hey, introduce yourself. I'm working an investigation. Your name came up in the investigation, and I'm hoping that you would be willing to participate in just answering 1 or 2 questions, please call me. Now the guy's intrigued. Don't tell him what it's about. But you got his attention. Now he calls you back. Now that's going to delay your case unless you can find him on Facebook or you can find a telephone number for him where you can actually call him. But you can do these flat rate things for domestic cases. You go to the courthouse, check their criminal history, maybe even look over the Facebook account to see what's on Facebook. And of course, if there is an ex involved, maybe offer 1 or 2 phone call interviews to other, subjects of importance. And that could be like $69. Now there you have almost no expenses, but it's going to just take a little bit more of your time, which is a good thing because your time is worth nothing. Because you can have 10 cases and be working them all at the same time. So it's not like every minute or every half hour we have to put to a specific case. Plus, as a private investigator, I could be sitting surveillance 10 hours in the back of a car. And I could be doing some of my other cases. So I'm actually double billing for time. If you're retired and you're working at home, so you make a couple of calls. So you go watch TV and you wait for somebody to call you back 2 hours later. Doesn't matter. You know that probably in a day or 2, you'll have everything you need for that file. You'll bill out the $69 or the $75 or the $85, whatever it is you decide to make. Tenant screening. Work for an apartment complex. Go to an apartment complex. Say, listen, I'm approaching this from kind of a different aspect for you. I know there's lots of screening companies. A lot of people run the names through the credit bureau system, which you can. It's very inexpensive. I think it's 50 or 75 cents to get a credit report run for tenant screening. But you take it to the next step. You also check county court records and maybe criminal histories. Let them know what kind of element, because credit bureaus, if they just contact a credit bureau on an apartment screening, they don't know the guy's criminal history. It's not in a credit report. That's a completely different file. But then again, it's got to be inexpensive because the applicants will pay, what, $25, I think, application fee at an apartment complex. They spend about probably $5 of that doing their credit bureau search. They probably pay $5 per person. Can't be much. So they only have about $15 left over, or $20 left over that you have to work with. And they want to get paid for their time too, because they're sitting talking to the person, they're shuffling the paperwork. So you have to figure out kind of how that all works, how much money they're willing to spend. But if you could go and just say, hey, I can offer criminal history searches on your people, and you give them a flat rate, again, even if it's only $5 or $10, chances are that information is going to be attainable on the web for free. Now, in an insurance claim, if I get a case, since I mostly work insurance cases, I'm interested in knowing, okay, I'm going to go out into the field and I'm going to work on somebody that claims that they were injured in an automobile accident or at work. And my job is going to be to film them as they walk around to show that they're not as injured as they claim they are. But before I go out there, I kind of want to know a couple of things. Like, I want to know, before my accident, have they been in any other accidents? Or after my accident, have they been in any subsequent accidents? Because I got to figure out, what am I watching? Am I watching a guy that just got involved in an automobile accident yesterday? Or am I watching a guy that's been on workers' compensation for 2 years? So I got to know his history. So I'll do accident searches. I'll do a courthouse search to see if he has recently been involved in any litigation, slip and fall, in a supermarket, what have you. I'll also go to the work comp database and check there to see if he's been working anywhere else and also has another claim in. And a criminal history, just so that I kind of know the guy that I'm working on. You know, does he have a criminal mind? Has he been involved in other kind of fraudulent type of schemes? And a lot of times my clients will want me to do that. They'll ask me for a background check on the person so that they can have an idea too of what type of individual they're dealing with. Because the insurance company could be in Hartford, Connecticut. They could insure, you know, Baba Louie's barbecue in Orlando, and the guy that got hurt, you know, was the, you know, chicken smoker. They don't know anything about that guy. They don't know what he looks like. They don't know where he lives. They don't know his family. All they know is that, you know, a bunch of hot oil, yeah, sprayed on him, and he says he can't come to work anymore. Now, most recently, I did a different type of background check. Do you remember what it was on? You helped me with it. Jurors. I did background checks on jurors. Now, why in the heck would anybody need that? Why would you need that? Well, when I was doing the background check on the jurors, I found that one juror had been arrested. This is an older woman, in her 60s. She had been arrested
back in
1977 for using profanity and disorderly conduct. Imagine if I was the attorney and you're that woman, okay, on the stand. Okay, and it's going to go like this. I'm going to do a little acting. And I'm going to be cross-examining the witness. And I'm going to say, Mr. Fry, look, I've been in your situation. In fact, I mean, this was a while ago, but when I was in my younger days, I've had some instances where I caused a little bit of trouble. And, you know, okay, let's say maybe I was, you know, the police came out and I got into a little bit of trouble, but those things happen to a lot of people. I understand that. This is different. Now I'm kind of appealing to you because I know something about you. I know that you had an incident in your life back when you were younger that it probably bothers you that you have that record all your life. Because every time she'd ever had to fill out a form for the last 40 years for a job, have you ever been convicted, what did she have to write?
Yes.
Yes. Now there was another woman that happened to have a Facebook account. And she was a realtor, and she woke up in the morning, she took a pictures of the sunset, and some flowers, and a bird that was roosting on her house. Now imagine sometime later, in my cross-examination of another person, I say, hi Mr. Brem, I'd like to ask you a couple questions today. It's a beautiful day. I woke up this morning, the sunset was gorgeous. You know, unfortunately, we all have to be in this courthouse. You know, and the woman's thinking she might be a lover of early morning sunsets. So that might appeal to her, that he said what a great day it was, it's a shame we have to be here. So we did a background check on every single juror. We found one juror that liked hard rock music. She had piercings. She was dating a guy that had punk rock hair and lots of tattoos. Imagine if I was the attorney and I was cross-examining somebody and I made a disparaging comment about people with tattoos. That might upset you as a juror. You might say, that uptight redneck person, you know, or, you know. So I might in fact turn it around, you know. I might just say, if I notice you have a tattoo, that's a really nice tattoo. What is it of? I'm showing sympathy towards the person because he had a tattoo. The juror who likes tattoos, that might appeal to her. Does it matter what the jurors think about the prosecutor? I mean, isn't it just about the evidence? So what does it matter if I'm, as the prosecutor or as the defense attorney, if I'm appealing to the juror, what does that matter?
It doesn't matter.
It doesn't matter?
it does matter. Because depending on the evidence, you could be biracial because you don't like tattoos and she had tattoos.
Maybe you just didn't like me for some reason, right? And it was almost like you didn't like the attorney. So the guy rubbed you wrong so much that you didn't want to believe anything of what he was presenting. You think that that could happen?
Yes.
Do you think that that might have happened in the Casey Anthony case?
Maybe.
Maybe they liked one, you know, maybe they liked the defense over the prosecution or something. Yeah, I mean, I think that's a perfect example that you can't sit and tell me that jurors make their decisions just by the evidence. They don't. And furthermore, in a circumstantial case, you have to say to the juror, you have to say to them, listen, this is a circumstantial case, meaning there's no direct evidence. We don't have video of the guy stabbing the guy. We don't have his fingerprints on a knife. We have the knife. It was in his hidden in his closet. We have these pieces of evidence that you need to put together. We have the pieces of the puzzle, but they don't quite fit together. They need some filling in between. Do you think as a juror, would you be able to put those pieces together? Or would you have to see a video of him actually being stabbed to say, you know, Joe stabbed him? So,
probably put the pieces together.
I mean, that's what a circumstantial case is. You have to get a jury that's gonna be able to put the pieces together. That's why it's called a circumstantial case, and they're told that in the very beginning. Well, the Casey Anthony case was a circumstantial case. All of those people in that jury knew that there was no direct evidence. They knew it. They knew it in the very beginning. They were told that. But for some reason, they did what no one thought that they would do, you know, and not put the pieces together, knowing that the pieces in the very middle, the connecting pieces, were nowhere to be found because they didn't have those. So the background investigation of jurors has to be, it's probably been something that's out there for a long time, but I never did it before. But it's very easy thing to do. As soon as the jury is put together, as soon as the names are known, the names and ages of those jury people are known, and where they live, you know, Orlando or what have you, you immediately have an investigator working on finding out who they are. What do their Facebook pages say? What kind of music do they like? Who are they dating? Where are they from? Okay. Do they have any criminal history that we should be aware of? Maybe one of the guys has a ton of tickets every year, and he just has a problem speeding. His problem might be he likes fast cars. Anything that we can learn about that person is going to help us in the case. So I would check Facebook. I would check the courthouse. I would check their criminal history. Depending on if I had enough time, I might even want to try to find out where they work, what type of job they have, and that that might require actually going into the field, visiting the residents or talking to a neighbor, because not all databases, there isn't a really good database that will identify everybody's employer 100% or even probably 80% of the time. The databases that I do use sometimes suggest their employer. Now a credit check usually shows an employer on it, but you don't have releases to get to that data. I would have to find a database. If I did this for full time, I'm sure I would be able to find a database that had employers' information in it based on credit checks, the top portion of the credit check, and that information was being sold. You have any questions about uses of background investigations?
Always make sure that you have the right information, name.
When you start, look, when we just did a locate together, we were having trouble in the very beginning of the girl's spelling of her name. You know, you have to have that correct spelling first.
Yeah.
Exactly. And the age or the date of birth. You know, you can have Bob Smith. Good luck if you don't have some other information. You better have where he's from, you better have a date of birth, something else that's going to help you delineate one Bob Smith from another. But when we talk about report writing later, you're gonna learn that the way you write your report,
It's got to be accurate.
well, yeah, it has to be accurate, but it's also going to be changed for different types of cases. The background check that we do for a domestic case might be the same background check we do for a juror, but we're going to word it different. You know, we're gonna just write it different. Now our reports are always going to be kind of the same style. We want to have the same style, but the way we write it, we call that adaptation of the report. The way you adapt the report to the reader is going to be different. So that will conclude our supplemental conversation on background investigations. I want to go in the other room and